So on that note, I wanted to shift gears into, I think, a topic, given our audience includes a lot of founders here that are looking to different platforms or avenues to enhance their thought leadership for themselves and for their companies. I think a question that I can't help but ask to a journalist, like, what advice would you have for entrepreneurs looking to tap into these channels like Reuters, for example, to build their branding and tell their story?
Okay, basically, I think the biggest point that you're going to hear from a lot of different media is before pitching reporters, know what they do, not necessarily the reporters, but know what the media does and what it's not going to cover. For example, as much as, and I have friends who've turned to me and they're like, "Oh, Fanny, we've raised this great seed round. Can Reuters cover it?" And no, we barely cover companies that are not unicorns. And we are covering rounds that I don't remember the last time I covered a round that was under 300 million. I've covered some smaller ones. But for us, learn what, first of all, know what is your expectation, know who you want to reach. So are you trying, it's great to have the goal to be in like bigger media or international media, but who are you trying to reach? Are you trying to reach other investors? Are you trying to reach potential clients? What does that media's audience mean for you? If you're trying to reach more investors or then a more kind of like tech or financial focused readership will work better for what you're trying to pitch. If you're a seed company or if you're a small startup, you may be very interesting, but it will be harder for you to get coverage in bigger publications because they tend to cover bigger rounds for bigger
Mhm.
company. The exception to that being is if you offer a value proposition that is going on to really big teams that might be AI, or if you have a very unusual or very big investor that hasn't invested in Southeast Asia, that might be part. So look at what the publication publishes, have realistic expectations based on what the publication publishes, and make sure you're pitching the right reporter. For example, for me, I get pitches for India all the time from Indian startups. I do not cover Indian startups. We have a great Indian team though. So basically make sure that you're pitching the right person is a very big one. Google their bylines, look at what stories they've reported, look at what basically the publication is doing, and think about what your audience is, what you want. And if you are pitching an international media but you want local audiences as well, look at what the reach of that big media is in a local market. So let's say you want to break something in the New York Times, Reuters, or Bloomberg, but you also want it to be well read basically in, say the Philippines or Thailand or Indonesia. Look at how much basically local medias are republishing from those articles, from those medias, or citing them. So, for example, Reuters for us, we will be picked up very well, both in English and in Indonesian, in Indonesia, but that will be less picked up, or for, let's say, Vietnam, things like this. Know the media that you're pitching, check that you're pitching the right reporter as well. Or just before you pitch, if the reporter is doing work that you think is interesting, and you are not sure whether they'll cover your company, but you feel that you can offer a certain expertise or a certain value proposition, you can also say, "Hey, look, I read your work. I'm doing X and Y. I'm very interested in this. I'd love to grab coffee and tell you about this. Would you be open to a chat?" Because I think trying to build, do an informal chat in some cases might work better, depending on what the person covers.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of great practical advice for founders listening in and anybody who's helping out these smaller companies, startups really build their thought leadership and exposure.